case and decide.
I'm good.
Okay.
They don't do nearly enough work on the main critique argument can be summed up with the idea that some things are just too important to be in a debate around. The idea of securitization is not something that we should be debating about, instead we should focus our activism in the way the areas outside of the discussions and debate around. They don't answer any of the ones in this part of in our evidence. It's a link turned to their entire affirmative. Don't allow them to as everyone else making arguments on this question as its use block time allocation. They concede, or though they could reduce their arguments to the level of commodity status. There are three warrants in the say reproduction. When debaters hear them making a new argument in debate round, they're not going to think that, oh, this is something that really changes me. This is something that I need to take out to the broad world and change the way that debate functions. Instead, they're going to see it as a sweet argument, something that they can use to win rounds. This means that they're going to just take the sites. This is empirically proven. The Mercer Island stole Jim Schultz's sites from the affidavit at the NDT. These aren't arguments that are just changing people. Instead, something that debaters are just going to see as something to use and be a simulation. They ask yourself, did they do anything new? No, they're still reading fast, making strategic and technical decisions, ring drove there, merely the practice of war and intellectual level. Far from being passive, they can bat arguments and attempt to defeat them. And third is this competition that they militarize the ballot instead of seeing the ballot as a place where our interests can converge in this place where we can actually agree on a struggle that we're going to use to change debate. They see it as something that's militarized and something that they have to fight for. This destroys any impact to their criticism, as it means that they can actually bring about broader reform. And or this their hope for the ballot turns they make the ballot into a point of militarized contention. Personally judged pick between the better of two combatants that they really want to change the debate. They would concede the round and invite in real discussion. Additionally, we will win 100% of case turn and the round produces more militarism in debate and outside of it. Our Man 96 evidence says that rather than change the behavior, technocrats including debate descriptions, policymakers are using the information the YC to debate new ideas and technologies. Militarism considers this case specific seed the political design without attaching yourself to an instrumental mechanism for changing debate or militarism. Those in power will just insulate themselves from your criticism and all who ways to be violence only empirical proven effect and ground teams having conceded because they agree they fought out to find their Stevens conservativism. LBJ didn't give up on Vietnam because of the peace registry. Our 10,000 extra special agents and killed the rest of the protesters and escalated violence being not by executing for special agents and in particular framework functions as an alternative. It would be better if their movement was not included in debate round, and that we could talk about later. This short circuits all of their offense on the framework debate because because all of their evidence is predicated off the idea that the movement being in debate is better. This means that we'd be better if you exclude, and additionally we control uniqueness on this question. The movements against militarism are only existing outside debate, and the status quo means that there's only risk of our impact turns. It's all conceded. Don't have arguments on this question. They say that they break down the binary. However, this doesn't answer any of the warrants in our evidence. They gave three specific reasons and read tons of hard evidence on reasons why, including their movement in debate is a bad thing. Just saying that by challenging militarism we break it down does not answer this. Yes, we agree that challenging militarism is the best way to break it down, but non-competitive debate round where teams are going to be fighting over the ballot and teams are going to be disagreeing over how we should use things in the debate round. Can you give them pen? This was don't allow the 201 to come back to this question. On the realism debate. Except that realism is inevitable. States are inevitably going to compete and interfere each other. Mearsheimer evidence indicates that the states are always going to be engaged in competition because they can never feel confident in other states' interests. And in particular, those states always act to increase the relative power, making security competition. Neville, Mearsheimer, no one. The great powers organize the best way to ensure the security is achieved. Germany now will act ostensibly to amass as much power as they can because states are always better off if they're rather than less power. States are not up to become successful powers until they completely dominate the system that sort of leads to a world of constant security competition where states are willing to lie, cheat, and use brute force to help them. And their prism doesn't provide us with the roadmap which ensures violence. Realism is need to keep the balance of power stable. It acts as its own balance better. Murray 97. Despite the side effects, balance of power at least offers us something like tangible rather than the normal prospects of lacking a short of support, which actually post-structuralist approach offers nothing by the way strategies. I think ultimately proves unsustainable forever. Mentioned and worse than expectation. Political tragedy at least offers us a creepy version of the objectives of which we achieve them. And competition among states novel. 3 reasons. 1, no central authority. 2, states have offensive capabilities, and 3, vague interventions. Mearsheimer, no 1. The structure of our national system for states which seek to secure to act aggressively. These features the cause states secure 1, no, the depth and central authority sits above the states can protect them from each other. 2, the fact that states have some offensive military capability, and 3, the fact that states can never be certain about states change given this fear which will never really eliminate states recognized as more powerful than relative to their rivals. And additionally they say that ontology comes first. However, Their moral tone of vigilance complicit with evil they criticize when applied to politics, I second too. What should be done to respond to violence calls for a decent and ethical global order of economic because they are not accompanied by the account of how diplomacy can work effectively to address the problem at hand, how to do so with regard to accountability, stretch, choice, and moral goodness, and detail to accomplish anything. Must it means that they are necessary to bring anything about powers not reducible to neutrality and unyielding with goodness and courage responsibility of drawing violence may seem like the right thing, but conscious of their supporters, the thought of violence and moral inferiority from the standpoint of politics, passive and lowest of moral stand. It refuses to open scrutiny, fails to see the politics as much about unintended consequences, intention, effects of action rather than motives of action is the most significant. Or it's just about the effects of pursuing goals and to judge these effects and pragmatic, historically contextualized ways, moral absolute, then it's the judgment alienates those who are not true believers, and additionally the man critique link turns this argument are men. It indicates that they break down their own recreate a violent ontology by including their argument in debate. This is conceded. In fact, initially there is always value to life subjective people get to sign up for themselves. The argument is literally morally repugnant. The one he sees is not a direct, even if the argument one he sees an impact or is a turn of the realism arguments that is irrelevant, as it's still going to be inevitable, and realism is still going to be the way the world works. And additionally, any shift away from realism will cause power vacuum, resulting in great power wars, Michel Rowan. Everlasting peace among great powers will still work, even though the Soviet threat disappeared. The United States still maintains hundreds of thousands of troops in Europe, dangerous probably to probably emerge from McMahon and reach the field troops with John German. And the American power might have behaved aggressively virtue in Northeast Asia is possibly even more profound. The most will be a clash between China and the United States over Taiwan is hardly remote. The also means that the threat of great power wars not disappeared. International politics has always been ruthless and dangerous business, likely to remain the way the great powers for each other and always competed with against each other for the overall goal of each to maximize the shared world power, which means gain power at the expense of others. Its ultimate aim is to be that among them the great powers are rarely contended with always have division and intentions that will use for assault to the bonds apart, turns the customers who trying to shift the bonds apart to great and great powers away. Or more favorable solutions, but the desire for power does not go away. And survivalist contingent offense and military power, Mission Number 1. This is compels them to prepare for the worst power competition, ensures that vicious cycle of security and power accumulation is along to the best way to the state to drive in narrow case they can manage with their states and gain power at their expense. The best defense to offense. The states would their jump with the opportunity large gains and survival gain more the power of according to logical means that survival and suits up and their strategies and moral insights, more violence codes 97. So tourism not just about utility past but strategy but also about moral consistency, even though your actions not violent, the first consequences which should be laser bones, the state of war for your bones now have the centuries allowing you to continue occupying the heights, allowing you to repelling force with your tactics is basically military one rather than morally persuasive one. Not only does not violent or resistance involve violent discussion, but also deliberately engineers and circumstances, those which more mild and less sensitive positionless than violent ambitions, circumstances seems naive or hypocritical to parade one non-violent credentials one running through roles when playing unleashing the cycle of violence. On the deterrence side. First, to the extent that they can see the link to the disadvantage means that there's 1% that they break down terms and the wars are going to break out. Although one here to make new arguments on this question. Additionally, there are none of their generic impact systems are responsive to this argument where evidence indicates that nuclear weapons are in existence in the status quo. They are in their affirmative ethical sense is going to be able to get rid of means that the states are never really going to use them unless they're tricked back and deterred from this use by other states. And in particular, you should only start planning is vital to create appropriate risk assessment. Policymakers have an obligation to engage in these predictions to resolve them before. It directly goes more in line with thinking release believe that this pointless, perhaps even our books strap partisan in light of the crisis of conventional programs and historical analysis that are complete natural recognition of contingency of history without more assertions about larger total and determinacy knowledge of the fact that the future not be known without absolute certainty does not relate to the debate making that's trying to understand what's brewing. As if we're more vigilant for more sense of disaster and for responsible folk and intended risks and expected consequences of acceptance of historical contingency itself in the character of partisan substitute to prevent catastrophe. So on the shoulders of the present generation and scenario planning driven heavily in checks for prediction systems create watchdog alliances of incentive to prevent the stereotype of your monitoring for all on board. Despite the fact that only venture into scientific environments disasters from predicting events and multiplication of independent sources of knowledge and detection makes enables this many years before it's too late. And also don't actually indict the warrants in our 1AC evidence which indicates that there are 1AC evidence which indicates that the nuclear bombs are going to be crucial to deter the states from using these actual WMDs. This means that there's a conceived risk that they can see the substance of this. The impacts aren't constructed empirically proven states have gone to war in the past when there haven't been enough the militarization or enough of the deterrents to prevent them from in particular deterrence groups are ideological and still have.
Okay. If we win that you don't have an impact on the DISAD, does the DISAD go away?
Yeah, if you win, no impact.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we probably don't have that.
Cool. Okay, so if we militarize the ballot, don't you also militarize the ballot?
I mean,
like you link back to your own argument.
The argument isn't so much that, it's more, that's